He's Hacker.
Talk about a fried egg. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Tuesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us. A Tuesday that finds us 9 days away from the NFL draft. Next Thursday, round number 1 on the 24th up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We'll certainly spend a lot of time on the draft tonight. We actually had the pre-draft media luncheon with James Gladstone and Liam Cohen. I figure by now you've heard a lot of the sound bites from that. We might play some of those for you later, but I have a thought on that. I was down there today taking it all in, and Denmark, I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite here, but in a positive way, and I'll share that here in one moment. So a lot of thoughts on what Gladstone and Cohen had to say today. The NBA postseason is underway, sort of, the play-in tournament. Orlando and Atlanta, the first game out of the gate. The winner of this game goes on to play Boston. Orlando's off to a nice start, 25-17 Magic. 2 minutes to go in the first quarter. Banchero, 6 early points for Orlando. Anthony Black, 7 points for Orlando as they lead the Hawks 25-17, 2 minutes to go in quarter number 1. Remember, this is not a lose and you're eliminated. Winner tonight moves on to play Boston. The loser tonight, season is still alive, but it does become winner go home Friday night for them as they will then play the winner of Chicago and Miami, which takes place tomorrow. We'll keep you updated on all that. But just know if you win tonight between Orlando and Atlanta, you advance to play the Boston Celtics. We'll do some college football talk tonight as well. Obviously, still a lot of conversation about the fallout from Nico in Knoxville. The Florida Gators wrapped up their spring practice, so a lot to get into on the college gridiron tonight as well here in the middle portion of April. Guest lineup tonight, Jarrett Bailey of the Sporting News joins us in less than 15 minutes as we will not only talk Jaguar draft, but I want to look around the league with Jarrett. I want to look around the AFC South with Jarrett. He's one of my favorites. He does a terrific job. So Jarrett Bailey of the Sporting News, 15 minutes away. Also, NFL draft analyst Kyle Lindamman joins us at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. As always, Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us to kick off a Tuesday night here on Hacker After Dark. Every night on HAD, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Dylan Denmark, let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal? No big deal. It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So this was my first time in a press conference setting with Liam Cohen and James Gladstone. Had not been to any of the other ones, but now that we're in the meat of the offseason, OTA is right around the corner. Wanted to make it down to the Miller Electric Center today to take it all in. And I was thinking a lot about this over the last few hours, how I was going to phrase this, because I don't really want to sound hypocritical. If there's something that I always try to do with you guys, it's be genuine, right? I don't make stuff up. You know, love me, hate me, whatever. I am who I am, right? I don't just conjure stuff out of thin air to get a rise out of you. I say what I feel. And some of you don't like that. Some of you do like it, but that's what makes the world go round. And as I'm listening to Liam Cohen and James Gladstone today, look, I have sat in this radio studio either on this show or back when I did midday radio for years and years and years. And I used to be the guy that would say, yeah, you know, man, it just feels different, right? It does. It just feels different. There's a different vibe. There's a different energy. But probably 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, it was very apparent that it just never felt different, right? That was just something that was said by people in the offseason to get you, the fan base, excited and give you a false proclamation of false hope. Nothing really ever felt different, from Gus Bradley to Dave Caldwell to Doug Marrone to Trent Baalke. It never really felt different. So I stopped saying it. And in fact, I used to have some fun with some colleagues of mine that would say, it feels different down there. There's a different vibe. There's a different energy. No, there's not. There never was. There never has been. That's why I've stopped doing it. Why are we going to sell you, Jaguar fans, why are we going to sell you a bill of goods? Why are we going to put lipstick on a pig? Sometimes we tried. I even tried too, admittedly. I've been somewhat positive more on the roster at times than I have been on the staff. Doug Peterson, Urban Meyer, Doug Marrone, Gus Bradley, Mike Mularkey. It is what it is, right? As they say, it is what it is. So fast forward to today. And again, I'm the guy that makes fun of people for saying it feels different. Because it never feels different here in Jacksonville, man. That's why they're the worst team in the NFL over the last 12 plus years. They got the worst win-loss record. They're about to have their 11th selection all time in the top 5, which is an absolute joke. 11 times this team has picked in the top 5. Keep in mind, they've only been around just over 30 years. Basically, every 1 in 3 years, this team is picking in the top 5. But as I'm listening today down at the Miller Electric Center to James Gladstone and Liam Cohen, and not just listening, but watching them, how they interact, their, jokes that they make, kind of cracking on one another a little bit, the genuine relationship that it appears that they have. I got to tell you, man, I don't know how else to say this. And I haven't said this in forever. And look, I don't know if this is going to mean a hill of beans when it comes to the roster. I don't know if this is going to matter one iota when it comes to wins and losses. I'm not saying this is going to result in a Super Bowl championship in 2025. But I was down there for Urban and for Marrone and for Doug Peterson. And, being in there today and just watching and listening to James Gladstone and Liam Cohen, actually watching them laugh at each other's jokes, not pretend to be friends, actually be friends, actually appear to be on the same page with one another and not just put on a front for the media and the fan base, that was different. That was different. Again, will that matter come September? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know that. But I've sat through a lot of press conferences, man. A lot of them. And I've come back and told you, what I thought of this soundbite or that soundbite, and I let you hear from this coach or that GM and what they had to say. And instead of doing that tonight, I just wanted to be as genuine with you as I can. Because I'm privileged enough to be in that Miller Electric Center media room and watch that press conference in person today. And I realize how fortunate I am to be doing that. And it felt different than what I've been used to in that room and in those settings over certainly the last few years, if not even longer. I told you this when they hired both guys. I loved the James Gladstone hire. I liked the Liam Cohen hire. I was over the moon with the Tony Vaselli hire. And everything I've seen for the last few months has given me no reason to back off that stance. Hacker, games don't matter till September. You're right about that. So all we can go on is what we've seen in February and March and the early portion of April, right? That's all I'm going on. And in that time frame, it's as good as I hoped it would be. It's as good as I hoped it would be. I'm not telling you to run out and buy season tickets or, make plans for a playoff push, save money to travel to Kansas City to take on Mahomes in late January. I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you from my stance, being in that room many, many times and being in those settings many, many times over the last few years and being in there today with Cohen and Gladstone at that pre-draft media luncheon, as much as it pains for me to say this because I told myself I never would again, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here, but it did feel different. And in a very positive, different way. Again, I don't know what to really ascertain about what they're going to do with pick number 5. Denmark, are you still confident about the Mason Graham selection at 5, if he's there?
Well, the Jags are going to take him?
The Jags are going to take him?
That's where I'd lean and put my money, yeah.
That's where I would lean. I told Ballou this during the 2-minute drill there. I was probably 90% if Graham was there at 5, the Jaguars were going to take him probably 72 hours ago. That's still my favorite, my overwhelming favorite, but I'm probably not at 90 anymore. I'm probably down to 80. There's talk about Jalen Walker. There is legitimate conversation about Jalen Walker. I can tell you that. I'm not sure from Cohen or Gladstone, but from people that I've chatted with, I think there's talk about some of the offensive linemen. Will Campbell, certainly. Mimbo from Missouri. Heck, Kelvin Banks from Texas. 5, I think, would be too high for him, but I think there's talk about Kelvin Banks. I think there's talk about Ashton Genty. Would they do that? I don't know. What if they think he's Saquon Barkley? What if they think he's Bijan Robinson? Again, they being Cohen and Gladstone, they're the only 2 opinions that matter, along with Shad Khan. Those 3 guys will make the decision. I saw Nick Wright on FS1 had the Jaguars taking Tyler Warren. As surprised as I would be for that, that's not the first time I've seen that. Tyler Warren go number 5. Look, if you're asking me who to put my money on April the 15th, 9 days out from round number 1, I would still more than likely put my money on Mason Graham. And I'd probably put a decent amount of money on Mason Graham. But like I said, being 90% Mason Graham 3 days ago, I'm probably 80% now. I'm trying not to overthink it, right? But I do believe there are a lot of different areas. We have no idea. We like to think we do, but I don't believe we do. We have no idea what they think of the interior defensive line. They may love Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson and Devon Hamilton and Eric Armstead and Tyler Lacey. I mean, think about that alone. 3rd-round pick and a contract for Devon Hamilton, albeit it wasn't this regime, but that's the reality for Devon Hamilton. 2nd-round pick on Mason Smith. Big free agent money for Eric Armstead. And 4th-round picks, right, for Tyler Lacey and Jordan Jefferson. They've invested a lot on the interior defensive line. And I'm not going to tell you they're not going to take an interior defensive lineman. Maybe they take one at 36. Maybe they take one in the 3rd round with one of their selections. But do they have to take one at number 5? I don't know if you have to. Would I be upset with Mason Graham? Probably not. But I don't know if it's a locked, surefire thing anymore. Again, I'd still bet on it. Talk to me beginning of next week. But I think there's conversation, like I said, about Jalen Walker, about Ashton Genty, one of those offensive linemen, Tyler Warren, maybe a possible trade back. I think a lot of options are in the air. I'm still team Mason Graham, just not what I was 2 or 3 days ago. 641-1010 on the text line. If you want to hit me up, Designed by Lifetime Enclosures, you are more than welcome to do so on the 1010XL text line, 641-1010. Coming up next, let's look into the Jaguar draft, but let's go deeper than that. Let's look around the AFC South, talk about their draft needs. Let's look around the league at the big picture. My buddy Jared Bailey of the Sporting News does an absolutely terrific job covering the NFL, and he joins us next on a Tuesday night here in Jacksonville, Florida, with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us. Hacker After Dark till 10 o'clock right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
The Drill.
We're very lucky in the sense that we've got two visionaries.
Dan Hicken and Jeff Prosser.
Like poets.
Weekday mornings.
Two totally distinct types of visionaries.
On 1010XL.
It's like fire and ice.
Baloo here for Smoonez Vision. Why Smoonez Vision? Well, I've been with Dr. Neil Smoonez now since I got back to Jacksonville in 2006. 37 years of experience he has. Smoonez Vision is a family organization that focuses on personal high-quality medical and surgical eye care. Dr. Catherine Smoonez is fellowship-trained in cornea and cataract surgery and all refractive surgery. Combined, that's 30 years plus in laser eye surgery. Visit SmoonezVision.com today. Here you can see.
Paying rent can feel like throwing money away. And when you're spending so much, it can be hard to see yourself buying a home. So Rocket Mortgage is helping you put your monthly rent towards home ownership with Rent Rewards. For the first time, save up to $5,000 off the cost of your first home just by paying rent. Only at Rocket Mortgage. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSConsumerAccess.org. Number 3030.
This is your Mad Dad's Update with Chapter President Donald Ford. In our effort to curb crime, drugs, and violence during the summer months, we are offering Friday Night Lights. It has already started and will be going until school starts back. It is every Friday night from 6:30 to 9:30 at the Blacktop, 5732 Normandy Boulevard, and behind the Potter's House Christian Academy. We manage 3 basketball courts. You are not running on the cement. We have covering on each court. The Lakers, the Magic, and the Heat. Ages 15 to 40 years old. This will give them something to do other than selling drugs and getting into trouble. We have monitors there giving leadership. We have to wake up, stand up, and speak up. Hit me on Facebook and tell me what you think. Or MattDadJacksonville.com.
If you missed it, get it on demand.
And you send those out on the line.
Find your 1010XL favorites where you find podcasts and at 1010XL.com. Channel 5. Duck Rooter Plumbing, Septic and Air Conditioning.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Dempsey, and I only like to recommend the best, which is why I'm proud to say that I chose Pella Windows and Doors for my own home. And now's a great time to upgrade your home with 0% financing for 60 months. That's 5 years of interest-free payments on the best windows and doors in the business. Don't wait. Schedule a free consultation at PellaJacks.com or visit their showroom on Phillips Highway just north of Bay Meadows. For quality you can trust and savings you can't miss, that's Pella Windows and Doors.
PRP treatment is kind of the thing these days, and in many cases, it eliminates the need for surgery. This is Sheridan Tootin, and my experience with PRP from Southeast Orthopedic Specialist has been nothing short of great. I'm really feeling much better now. Ask your Southeast Orthopedic Specialist doctor about PRP treatment.
This is Dr. Kevin Murphy with Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, where athletes are treated like pros.
Relieve pain and get back to life. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and there's so many cool products that are on the line at Cycles of Jacksonville. The showroom is Atlantic and Regency, and we're talking, Greg, you've got from any level of price point, the experienced rider to the inexperienced on-road, off-road.
We've got it. We've got ATVs, we've got motorcycles, we've got scooters, we even have the new Honda boats. We've got something for everyone.
Don't forget about the boat line from Honda. It's all right there, waiting for you. Atlantic and Regency or Cycles of Jacksonville's Facebook page.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call 722-1111.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
At the First Coast YMCA, you'll find much more than just a gym. We offer many ways to help you become more active, reach your weight loss goals, and find your inner strength. Membership at the Y includes state-of-the-art facilities, a huge variety of fitness classes, and programs for all ages. It's easy to join the Y since it's affordable for all incomes. The Y is a great place to make connections and experience something new. Visit the YMCA near you or online at fcymca.org.
Hey guys, it's that time of year again. The home team is looking for new players on the field, and you're looking to get that old car or truck out of your driveway. I can help. This is John Johnson over at First Coast Recycling. We buy junk cars. Draft us to buy your old car or truck for fast cash. Just call 904-294-1659 for a quick and easy quote from First Coast Recyclers. Come on, let's take your driveway back.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. The NFL Draft next Thursday in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Of course, the Jaguars, 10 draft picks overall, 6 of which are in the top 126 selections, and they have that number 5 overall pick in round number 1. Let's talk about the draft. Let's talk about the AFC South as well with Jared Bailey of the Sporting News, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Jared, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you doing?
Jared, we're good. Thank you for the time. And all right, we've talked Mason Graham, Jalen Walker, the Cam Ward saga, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. As a guy that's covered the league for years, how excited are you the draft is finally here next Thursday?
I've been kind of throwing a hissy fit on the respective social media apps saying that they need to move the draft up at least 2 weeks because we spend like a month just repeating the same things over and over again, and I'm just kind of over it, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So yeah, very excited to get this thing done and not hear the word mock draft for a year.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy. I remember the one year they moved it back to like the first week in May because they thought that was a good idea. That turned out not to be a good idea. At least they learned their lesson on that one.
Yeah, I just think that, like, once the combine comes and goes, and, you know, if you want to make the case for pro days, all right, whatever. But once those are done, like, there's no reason why we have to sit around for a month while it can be moved up to, it could be this weekend or this past weekend where you could have done it, you know, the 11th through, like, you know, last Thursday through last Saturday, it would have been completely fine. But instead we have to sit here for an extra 2 weeks and just repeat the same things that have been being said for the last, you know, 3 months back and forth. So like I said, I'm not the biggest draft connoisseur per se. You know, I think that after probably around the combine is when I'm starting. All right, let's wrap this thing up. You know, I think I know all I need to know about these guys. Let's start putting them on teams and start projecting what the season's going to look like.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. The Jaguars hold the 5th pick next week. I want to get to them obviously in a moment, but the first 4 picks have to go down before that. Jared, Cam Ward to the Titans looks like all but a done deal. What's your opinion on that, and what type of player do you think Cam Ward's going to be?
I mean, it makes sense. Tennessee needs somebody at that position, and Cam is the, you know, consensus top guy at the position in this year's class. It's not not considered a strong class per se. You know, it's really a two-headed class with Cam and Shedeur Sanders. You got Jackson Dart truthers that are, you know, starting to sneak in there as well and have been for the last couple months. But, you know, it does feel like Ward and Sanders are the safest 2 picks that you can have at the position in this year's draft. And for Tennessee, like, obviously Will Levis isn't the answer. You know, it felt like almost weekly last year we were getting like memeable plays from him, and not in the best of ways. So it doesn't surprise anybody that they're moving in a new direction. And, for the sake of, this newer regime and Brian Callahan, the head coach, they hope it works out. And in terms of Ward, like he has that, the ability to make plays off script and get outside the pocket and make throws. So he's got that in his arsenal. I think just keeping him, within rhythm and helping him become a more stationary passer rather than having to, feel like he constantly has to get outside the pocket and make plays is something that they'll work with him on. That was a similar criticism to what Johnny Manziel had coming out of A&M is, instead of stepping up in the pocket, he might, take a step out and roll out to the right and try to make something crazy happen. So I think just making the safe plays for him is going to be the thing that they really hone in on this year, and just trying to, lay the groundwork in year one for what they hope will be, a long career in Tennessee that helps them get back to winning games.
Jared Bailey of the Sporting News. Yeah, we're certainly interested in how Cam Ward's going to do. Obviously, the Titans are a big rival in the division for the Jaguars. You mentioned Shedeur Sanders. That's where I want to go next. The thought was, maybe Cleveland or New York will take him. Now, as we get closer to the draft, it appears that that's not likely going to happen. There's talk about New Orleans at 9. I know you're very familiar with Pittsburgh, and could they potentially do something with Shedeur Sanders? What's your thought on him? How far might he fall?
I think with him, like after the Derek Carr news, it feels like New Orleans is the place that makes the most sense. A couple months ago, I would have said Las Vegas. And even after the Geno Smith trade, it would have made sense for them to take Shedeur and, roll with Geno for a year or two. And then when the time comes, have Sanders start, similar to what the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. But they gave Geno, a 3-year extension. So that kind of feels like they're not going to take a quarterback there. And in terms of the Steelers, I don't think that Sanders is going to fall to 21. If he does, then I think that that's something they would pull the trigger on. But it's very evident they're gearing up to trade up for their guy in next year's draft, which is in Pittsburgh. They have a bunch of projected comp picks in next year's draft. So I think that they're gearing up to take their guy then rather than this year. So I think New Orleans is the team that I'm kind of circling right now. We haven't seen a trade in the top 5 yet, which historically would be an albatross because we see one almost yearly at this point. And if there's a team that could trade down, I guess Cleveland is one of them, but I think they're just going to stay put and take either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. I think New England is the team that if you're the Saints, that's the team that you're looking at trading with. They don't need a quarterback. They could gain, an extra pick in the top 100, perhaps 2 picks in the top 100 in addition to a first-round pick next year. So if you're New England, you can move back 5 spots, still be able to take, a potential blue-chip player and get some additional picks. I think that makes sense. And for New Orleans, like you're going into this year with not a lot of hope and not a lot of marketability. From a business standpoint, like who do they have to really lure fans into the stadium right now? There's no one really there. So if you can trade up into the top 5, get Shedeur Sanders, that at least will create some buzz around the team and get butts in seats during the season. Because right now, if I'm a Saints fan, what do I have to look forward to if Spencer Rattler is the quarterback? No disrespect to Spencer Rattler, unless they just fully embrace tanking this year for a guy in 26. But if you can get Shedeur Sanders, there could be something there. I think Kellen Moore is a good offensive play caller and whatnot. We'll see how he does as a head coach. But, I think that it makes sense to trade up for them, get Shedeur Sanders, and at least have some sort of excitement around this year rather than just not really having anything. But if they don't like him, then they'll wait. But I think that getting Shedeur Sanders makes sense for New Orleans.
No, I agree. I just hope it's Jacksonville they trade back with because the Jaguars might be in no man's land at 5, Jarrett. Again, you look at Cam Ward, we figure Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are going to be gone. If New England stays at 4, I guess the talk is an offensive lineman, but they could go any direction. And then that brings us to Jacksonville at 5, and it's been all Mason Graham all the time. And as obvious as that is, I just not trying to overthink this. It makes sense. It's a need. It's a position fit. If you look at James Gladstone's history in L.A., I mean, Mason Graham, if he's on the board at 5, right, isn't that going to be pretty enticing for the Jaguars?
Yeah, I mean, for, as much as the Cam Ward pick's been written in pen, it feels like if Mason Graham's there for Jacksonville, that one's written in Sharpie. They need help on the interior. They just need a presence up front. They haven't really had that. Josh Hines-Allen took a nice step, and as did Trevon Walker, but they need something between those guys that can lure attention to open up things on the edge. So I think we're going to see teams start taking that Eagles approach, especially with how the Super Bowl went, where, all right, if we can get some dominant interior players that take a little bit of the pressure off our edge rushers, or guys who can even win on the inside and get to the quarterback, then, that's a new formula for winning on defense. And it takes the pressure off the secondary, too, which we know that Jacksonville secondary was not very good last year outside of Tyson Campbell. So if they can get somebody on the interior to wreak havoc while their two edge rushers continue to ascend and take steps forward, I think that's the best thing that they can do right now. And, yeah, you mentioned James Gladstone's history. It does line up with, the kind of thing that he likes to do. So it feels like if Graham is there, which it looks like he will be, that's the guy Jacksonville will take. And, if he reaches, or even comes close to reaching what many believe his potential can be, then they'll have a guy that can be, a stonewall there for, a decade plus.
Final moments, Jared Bailey of the Sporting News. Jared, I want to end with the AFC South, but a final thought on Jacksonville. If for some reason Mason Graham is gone, or if they just decide to go in a different direction, we keep hearing the names Jalen Walker and Ashton Genty. What's a quick opinion on both guys from you?
I mean, Genty obviously showcased his ability as a runner. Boise State, one of the more. I'm trying to think of the last running back to have this much excitement. I think he's got more hype around him than Bijan did. So even going back further than that, probably Saquon Barkley is probably the last time we've had this much excitement around a running back going this high. So he'll give a team a lot of explosiveness out of the backfield, but situations matter for running backs. I mean, we've seen that in the case of Saquon Barkley, where, yeah, he was a tremendous talent, but there's only so much that he can do on a team like the Giants. And then the year that he goes to Philadelphia, he helps them win a Super Bowl. So I do think that if you're a bad team with other needs, taking Genty isn't going to solve anything for you, especially if you have offensive line needs. So situations will matter for him. And I think that's something to keep in mind whenever we, go through these picks and whatnot. But he's a tremendous player. And if he ends up in the right situation on a team that looks like they're going in the right direction, then, I like the possibility of him playing a big part in a team, maybe making it back to the playoffs. Las Vegas is a team that has been circled a lot for him. If he gets to Dallas, I think that's basically a shoo-in. So there's a few teams that make a lot of sense for him. In terms of, who's the other one that you said? My apologies.
No, Jalen Walker from Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think that depending on what Jacksonville's looking for in specific, he could be a guy that they take, but I would almost want them to go in a different route, maybe going with, if they want to reach a little bit for Will Johnson, then maybe do it there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they would go with any sort of secondary player if Mason Graham's off the board. But again, especially just because of what they had to deal with last year. So in terms of that would be my general consensus on the Jags.
Jared, as we wrap up, man, it's been a really weird offseason in the AFC South. We talked about Cam Ward going to the Titans. They had a decent amount of money and basically just didn't spend any of it except on Dan Moore, which was interesting in free agency. Houston has decided they're just, I guess, not going to block for C.J. Stroud this year. And Indianapolis now.
Richardson, it's just, my goodness, is he inconsistent. And he is the definition of a guy who's going to live and die off the long ball. I've made the joke plenty of times like this offseason where, you'll be watching a game on CBS and you'll just catch a glimpse of the ticker and it'll say a stat like, oh, Anthony Richardson's 9 of 27 for 240 yards. What's happening right now in Indianapolis? So he's a very much, live and die off his arm. And also, his legs are an incredible asset, but he's got to really hone in on being, an all-around quarterback. And right now we haven't really seen that from him. And yeah, in terms of what Houston's doing, I have no idea. CJ Stroud was the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL last year. And so Houston responds to that by trading away their one good offensive lineman, and it's their left tackle. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Blake Fisher on the left side. I would assume they take somebody in the first 2 rounds to replenish that need. But even the guys that they've brought in to replace like their interior guys are arguably worse than what they already have. Like, I don't think Ed Ingram's going to be the answer at guard. I don't know what is really going on in their heads right now. Defensively, they're solid. They've locked down Derek Stingley. They locked down Jalen Petrie. Obviously, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson off the edge have been great. So that side of the ball, I'm not worried about whatsoever. It's on offense. Okay, Tank Dell's going to be gone for the foreseeable future. You lost Stephon Diggs. You're kind of in the same spot that you've been in the last 2 years, where it's Nico Collins and, they bring in Christian Kirk, but they still need somebody on the boundary to give them another solid outside weapon. So they're in an interesting spot. CJ Stroud's really good. I know a lot of people are going to, be weird about CJ Stroud because that's how we are about quarterbacks, just looking at box scores and whatnot. But CJ Stroud's awesome. It's just he needs protection and he needs guys outside of Collins to throw the ball to. So, and when it comes to Tennessee, I think that Dan Moore's fine. I wouldn't have paid him $21 million a year. And bringing Kevin Zeitler was good too. It's just a matter of, is Cam Ward going to be good? Because, like we said, it feels like he's going to be the pick. And if the quarterback's good, then they'll probably take steps forward. If he struggles, then they're probably going to be picking in the top 5 again. I think it's as simple as that with them. And then we'll see with Jacksonville. I was pretty high on them last year, and that turned out to be a very big mistake. So I'm not gonna put all my eggs in that basket again. But I'm a believer in Trevor Lawrence. I'm a believer in his talent. It's just a matter of making sure that
radio play-by-play, you don't just hear the game, you feel it.
They feel good. That feel good.
Get the most play-by-play on 1010XL, Jacksonville's play-by-play sports radio.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes. There was a time when if you handed me a bread basket at a restaurant, you better watch your fingers. Pizza, pasta, bread. Carbs were absolutely my weakness. I'd be lying if I said they didn't have me hooked. Then Awaken 180 came into my life. I've been down every diet road there is, but this is different. It's not just another diet. It's a total reset of how you see food. That carb craving that we all accepted as normal? That's gone for me now. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoy the good stuff, but here's the difference. I no longer feel like I need them. So when the server puts that bread basket on the table, I just smile, sit back, and say, nah, I'm good. That feeling of control is all thanks to Awaken 180. I lost 40 pounds in 9 weeks on Awaken 180. Hacker lost more than 110. Baloo is on his way, and you can lose whatever you want to lose. It doesn't matter what your goal weight is. Awaken 180 weight loss will get you there quickly and safely. It's a clear path to success without disappointment. Awaken 180 has changed my life, and it will change yours too. Give them a call at 844-346-1800 or go to awaken180weightloss.com. Trust me, you'll thank yourself.
Bueller, stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey man, what's that noise?
Do you hear it too? You can hear it, right?
Yeah, it's your air conditioner. It's like a grinding or a rattling.
And it's getting on your nerves, right? Like it's eating at your brain and you can't think straight, but it just keeps grinding and squeaking and taunting and nagging. You're not good enough. You're a failure. Why can't you be more like your sister, the lawyer?
Yeah, I don't hear that last part so much.
Yeah, but it's not cool, right, Jason?
It could definitely be cooler. At Bueller Air and Plumbing, we can totally repair whatever that noise is and get your AC working smoothly and silently. We fix these things all the time.
So I won't be a failure?
Life should be enjoyed. If some irritating, broken air conditioner...
Quarterback or dance floor diva. You know how fast your kid... Quarterback or dance floor diva. You know how fast your kid can go from playing Xbox to practicing their touchdown dance or sideline cheer? Visit sjmsaa.org. sjmsaa.org.
A judge swings the gavel and I pound the hammer. I'm not judging, just hammering. Hammer Time with Hayes Carlyon, weekdays on The Frangie Show.
Hammer Time with Hayes, driven by Southside Kia on 1010XL.
Direct from Broadway, MJ, the Tony Award-winning musical, is starting something all across America. Get tickets now to what the Washington Post calls a runaway hit. MJ the Musical, playing Jacksonville Center for the Performing Arts, April 22nd through 27th. Tickets at fscjartistseries.org.
Out with the old, in with the organized. Mia here for my friends at Closets by Design.
Freshen up your home this spring with a custom organization solution. For a limited time, take advantage of our spring special and enjoy exclusive savings on closets, garages, home offices, and more. That's 40% off with an additional 50% off with 12-month special financing through April. Spring on this deal before it's gone. Call today to schedule your free in-home consultation with Closets by Design.
Denny Thompson here. You gotta check out Tyson's Showroom Home Theater with surround sound and comfy theater chairs. You can transform your living room into a cinematic experience. I can stay there to watch all my games. It's that comfortable. Call Tyson today and bring the theater experience home. Tyson Sound and Security, your security, home theater, and home automation experts. New showroom at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming, Iowa.
Tired of wrestling with your shower curtain like it's a fight for the last slice of pizza? Ditch the drama and say hello to a smooth, stylish glass shower enclosure from Baker Glass. Wago Glass is clean, elegant, and makes your bathroom look huge and brighter. Give your shower a makeover and feel like you're in a spa without the price tag. I'm Mac at Baker Glass. Call me and get ready to love your new shower. Let's make your shower great again. Remember, Baker Glass. No one treats you better.
Hicken here, just call me.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Glad you're with us till 10 o'clock tonight. Hacker After Dark, 1010XL and 92.5 FM. We have an interesting situation going on in the play-in down in Orlando. The Magic, a 61-45 lead on the Atlanta Hawks. Close to halftime, about 30 seconds to go in the first half. Orlando leads it by 16. Look, Orlando was up as much as 21 in this game. They have dominated from the get-go. But Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner have not been dominating. It's like a team effort tonight, which is few and far between for the Magic. Paolo only 9 points so far, and yet his team is up 61-45. Again, approaching halftime. The winner of Orlando and Atlanta will advance to the NBA playoffs to take on Boston on Sunday, game one between the Celtics and whoever wins tonight. And look, as an Orlando fan, I know there's a lot of you that follow the Magic as well. I mean, it is what it is. The injuries have been crippling this year. They've missed like 175 combined games between Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Cole Anthony, and Jalen Suggs. And the number's actually over 180 combined games. But if you win tonight, you get in the playoffs as a 7 seed. As long as you don't embarrass yourself, maybe you can win a game in the first round, salvage something from this season. I said it earlier in the week. If they lost both of these home play-in games, then the season would be a failure. If Atlanta beats you in Orlando tonight and then either Miami or Chicago comes into Orlando and beats you on Friday to eliminate you, well, at that point, the season's a disappointment. But if that doesn't happen, if you win one of these home games, then at least you can take something out of the year. So we'll keep you updated. We're going to Orlando by 16, approaching halftime. New mock draft out on ESPN.com. Field Yates, Mel Kiper Jr. I really like what ESPN and the NFL Network do. They've done it for the last couple of years. They do the kind of the switcheroo, like Daniel Jeremiah will appear on ESPN programming. Denmark tonight, I saw Mel Kiper Jr. on NFL Network programming. It's odd and it's strange, but it's cool. Like he was on The Insiders with Ian Rappaport and I forget who some of the other guys. Tom Pelissero, I think, was on there. And there's Mel Kiper Jr. on NFL Network going over his latest mock draft. Look, the mock draft that Kiper and Yates did was a 3-round mock. And I got to tell you something. If this is where the chips fall next week in Green Bay, Wisconsin, sign me up, man. I'll be very, very pleased. Very pleased. They take Mason Graham at 5. The first 4 are Cam Ward at 1, Travis Hunter at 2, Abdul Carter at 3, Will Campbell at 4. Now, that's probably the worst case scenario for the Jaguars. That probably is. But it leaves Mason Graham there on the board at number 5, and they do take Mason Graham. Just so you know, Ashton Genty goes 6 to the Raiders. Armand Membo, 7 to the Jets. Jalen Walker, 8 to Carolina. Shedeur Sanders, 9 to New Orleans. And then finally Tyler Warren, 10 to the Chicago Bears. If you look ahead into the second round, they got the Jaguars taking a guy that I would love. I don't think he's going to be there at 36. But Luther Burden, the wide receiver from Missouri, I would love that. I like Luther Burden as a player. I like him a lot. I do think the Jaguars will draft a receiver relatively high. I got a thought on something Liam Cohen said earlier today as well regarding that. But Luther Burden in the second round, sign me up for that. And in case you're wondering, it was a 3-round mock. The first pick in round 3, they had the Jaguars going safety with Andrew McCaba of Texas. He's a guy that you've seen linked to the Jaguars a few times. The second, third-round pick, they had Quincy Riley, a corner from Louisville. Don't know a ton about him, but I have actually seen him in a few longer mocks being linked to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there's, when Mel Kiper Jr., I always say when mock draft 1.0 or 2.0 comes out, well, it's not really getting serious. But we're at mock draft 4.0 now, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're on the doorstep. When you get to mock draft 4.0, it is getting serious. Denmark, get Liam Cohen 4 ready when he's talking about the wide receivers. I don't know if anybody else noticed this today, and this is a longer cut, so listen to what he says. I don't know if anybody noticed this today. I noticed it immediately, and I want to talk about it after the fact. Liam Cohen, the head coach of the Jaguars today, this is courtesy of our friends at Jaguars.com, was asked, all right, if Brian Thomas Jr. is wide receiver 1, which he obviously is, who are you looking at to help him out at wide receiver, 2 and 3 as it stands right now?
Yeah, I think, we're going to spread the ball out hopefully equally. That was the nice thing about being last year with Tampa, and we had to play a lot of different players in different personnel groupings. I think you look just naturally right now at Parker Washington and Diami Brown at the receiver positions, and then saying that, hey, Brenton Strange hopefully continues to ascend. How do we use our 2 running backs to be able to supplement some of that usage, right, and be able to get more people involved in the game, especially early on, so that defenses can't just cloud, BT and be all over him, that we do have other guys that can go win and be explosive with the ball in their hands and ultimately share that wealth and share that playmaking ability, so that once the ball is snapped for the beginning of the game and then within the first quarter, if you haven't touched the ball, it's a hard one to continue to get through. So how do we get all of our playmakers a touch early on to get them going and get them involved in the game? And those guys that I just mentioned right now are guys that we're going to spotlight.
Now, unless I missed it, when he was asked who the guys are behind Brian Thomas Jr., Denmark, he mentioned Parker Washington and Diami Brown, right?
Yep.
Isn't he missing somebody?
Gabe Davis.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I was, as he was answering that, I'm thinking, because I made the joke earlier this offseason that you sometimes forget Gabe Davis is on the roster. We just don't talk about him. Now, maybe he's not doing a lot right now. He's still recovering from the injury. Maybe when he gets 100%, obviously he'll be much more in the frame of mind. But if you're talking who's behind Brian Thomas Jr., you talk about Diami Brown, Parker Washington, odds are they're going to draft somebody reasonably high. I mean, are we convinced Gabe Davis is going to be here in September? I don't really know why you would cut him based on his contract. That doesn't really help you very much. I mean, obviously he would take a roster spot. But yeah, I mean, Gabe Davis was the key acquisition, or at least one of the key acquisitions for Trent Baalke 13 months ago. And now, we don't even mention him in the same breath as Diami Brown and Parker Washington. Am I reading too much into that?
Probably a little bit. Yeah, I say you're reading a little too much into it.
I'm just going to what he said. Who are the number 2 and number 3 receivers behind Brian Thomas Jr.? And not one mention of Gabe Davis. Just an interesting side note. I do think the Jaguars will draft somebody at the wide receiver position, maybe in round 2, potentially round 3. I doubt it's round 1 unless they trade back. I'll tell you this, I would love to find a way to get Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. I would love everything about that. Now, you're not going to take him at 5. You would either have to trade down from 5 or probably trade back in to the end of the first round. But if the Jaguars could somehow pull that off, man, that would be spectacular. But you need playmakers. Again, your tight end room right now is Brenton Strange, Johnny Munt, and Hunter Long. I mean, those are your tight ends on the roster. That's why there's at least some Tyler Warren talk. That's what I go back to what I said earlier. At the end of the day, I still think it's probably going to be Mason Graham, but I'm not as confident about that as I was a few days ago. There's a lot of needs on this football team. Could you justify taking an offensive lineman? Of course you could. Could you justify Jalen Walker? Yeah, I think you probably could. Could you justify Ashton Genty? That might be a little harder to, quote, justify that. But if you think he's the next Saquon Barkley, if you think he's Christian McCaffrey or Bijan Robinson or any of these other guys that were drafted in the top 10, who am I to say that you're wrong? I think you could almost justify Tyler Warren because he's going to go somewhere in the top 10 to 12 picks. He's the number 1 tight end in this class. And as we said, right now you're talking Brenton Strange, Johnny Munt, and Hunter Long. So there are a lot of guys that you could certainly make an argument for. I'm still Mason Graham. Again, talk to me early next week when we actually are on the doorstep of the NFL draft. More draft talk coming up. We will shift gears in the 9 o'clock hour. We will get into the world of college football. Nico leaving Knoxville, wrapping up the Florida spring game. My buddy Brent Beard, First Coast News, is where you see him. You get him weekly on Hacker After Dark. He joins me at the bottom of the 9 o'clock hour. But coming up next, back into the Jaguars. My buddy Kyle Lindamman, NFL draft analyst. We've had Kyle on for years. He does a terrific job with his mock drafts. We'll talk about that number 5 pick. We'll look at all the options. We'll look at big picture needs for the Jaguars. NFL draft analyst Kyle Lindamman joins me next. Hacker After Dark on a Tuesday night here in Northeast Florida. And we're glad you're with us. 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
1010XL presents Blue Bloods, starring Frank Franchi as the commissioner.
This is a show about his Irish cop family, and I play their dad, Frank.
Frank Franchi, afternoons on 1010XL.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Enjoy a great day of golf and support Eagles View Academy Athletics. Friday, May 2nd at the newly renovated Bent Creek Golf Course. 8:30 shotgun start, best ball format. Find out more at evawarriorsathletics.com.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Clay Solar Installation Partners, your local woman-owned solar company. Did you hear? JEA is raising rates again. With summer right around the corner, those power bills are only going to go up. But with solar, you can take control of energy costs and say goodbye to rising rates. At Clay Solar, we make switching easy and affordable. Stop paying more for power and own it. Visit claysolar.com to schedule a consultation today.
Where can we go on Earth to get away from those pesky mosquitoes? The answer next.
Southern Oak Insurance is proud to continue offering coverage statewide. Financial stability makes Southern Oak Insurance a wise choice for your homeowner's insurance needs. Log on to southernoak.com.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
Iceland and the Faroe Islands are the only countries on Earth where there are no mosquitoes.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
North Florida is growing with lots of new families joining our community. If you're one of them making the move here, your next move should be a call to American Electrical to create the best home automation system, enhancing your living experience. There are many ways your life can be made easier through smart home technology, voice-activated systems, automated lighting, total house temperature control. With American Electrical, they've got everything you need to automate your home and make it your true oasis. Check out American-Electrical.com, powered by professionalism and raising the excellence bar.
Lauren Brooks here for Terminix. When mosquitoes show up, they are a buzzkill. You want them out of your yard, and fast. At Terminix, they know that mosquitoes bite, but not for long. They'll provide regular treatments to protect you and your family all season long. Go ahead and schedule that picnic, because when mosquitoes show up, so does Terminix. Don't live with a mosquito problem, Terminix it. Visit Terminix.com today to schedule a free inspection online. That's TerMinix.com.
Hi, I'm Sean Monahan from Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach. Since 1977, we've been Jacksonville's local family jeweler with a beautiful selection of fine jewelry and certified diamonds. But we're also Jacksonville's leading buyer of gold and silver and diamonds from the public. Gold has recently hit an all-time high at almost $3,000 per ounce. Pay bills, buy something fun. Now is the time to sell your gold for cash and get top dollar, or trade it in for a new piece and get even more value at Monahan Jewelers in Atlantic Beach.
Yo, it's your main man E.T. here, and it's time to make those summer break plans. Clay County is calling. From paddleboarding on Doctors Lake to reeling in the big one on Black Creek, or cruising the St. Johns River. There's no better place to dive into warm weather fun. Enjoy live music, local festivals, food trucks, and fireworks lighting up the night. Discover scenic parks, hidden trails, and must-visit local gyms. Your summer adventures start here. Visit exploreclay.com.
Tired of seeing the signs of aging? Spring is here, a time to renew. I'm Dr. Mark Capel, a board-certified dermatologist, here to help you look and feel your best with minimal to no downtime. Rejuvenate your skin, strengthen your core, and sculpt your body with advanced face and body treatments designed to restore your youthful glow and confidence. Just in time for spring and summer. A healthier, more fit you starts now. Visit dermagnify.com and step into spring looking and feeling your best.
Tired of changing out bad sod year after year? Get it done right with Roundtree Sod. Big or small, they have it, and always supplied farm fresh. For a lush, legendary green lawn, call 7414-SOD for a free estimate. 7414-SOD.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The NFL Draft next week in Green Bay. The Jaguars currently have 10 picks overall. 6 of those picks are in the top 126 selections. And, of course, all eyes are on that number 5 overall pick in round number 1. Let's talk about all of it with Kyle Lindamman. He's an NFL draft analyst. We've had Kyle on for years, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Man, we are in the heart of draft season. I'm getting excited. This is kind of one of those years where it just feels like after maybe the first 3 or 4 picks that we really have no idea how the draft is going to go. And so many of these teams, I think, have so many of these guys, kind of graded similarly. So I'm going to be very, very interested to see what's going to happen.
Well, obviously, all eyes in Jacksonville are on number 5. Before we get there, let's talk about what's going to happen in front of Jacksonville, and let's begin with the Titans. I mean, it's a done deal, right? Cam Ward to Tennessee, is that your understanding right now?
Yeah, I mean, based on the moves they've made as far as, like, bolstering their offensive line, like bringing in a guy like Kevin Zeitler for a 1-year deal. Obviously, they paid Dan Moore a ton of money. They're going to move the Alabama tackle J.C. Latham over to the right side where he's kind of a little more comfortable. They haven't done anything as far as their depth chart. So that's kind of my understanding, is that, that kind of feels like a done deal. Kind of feels like Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter kind of go 2 or 3. doesn't feel like Cleveland or New York is going to take a quarterback that high. I think maybe they're going to see how the draft unfolds. And if they trade back up into round one, I think that's more of a possibility. And then obviously the Patriots, I think, kind of feels like they're going offensive tackle.
That's the rumor. That's the one that you see. Now, I guess the big question for us is Shedeur Sanders. The thought now is that he's not going to go to either Cleveland or New York. I guess you never really know until draft night, but do you believe Shedeur will have a drop, as people are claiming, maybe number 9 to New Orleans or even past that?
Yeah, I kind of thought maybe Pittsburgh at 20 would kind of be his floor. You know, I'm not an anti-Shedeur Sanders guy. I think there's a lot to like about Shedeur. I think he's probably actually probably a little more pro-ready than Cam Ward at this point. But I think it's just the tools, the arm, the athleticism, you know, with Cam Ward, I think is a little more kind of intriguing. You know, we probably throw this term around a little too much in the draft NFL community, but, you know, kind of does feel like Cam Ward's got a little bit higher of a ceiling. And I'm not an anti-Shedeur, you know, kind of guy. I definitely like his confidence, and he's been around the game his whole life, which I think there's something to be said for that. I think I'm just questioning, you know, if this guy goes in the top 10, maybe to a team that doesn't have a good offensive infrastructure, how well can he elevate the guys around him? I just don't know the answer to that question.
NFL draft analyst Kyle Lindamman here with us on 1010XL. All right, so if we assume Ward 1, probably not Shedeur in the top 5, which is bad news for the Jaguars, maybe. I think everybody here has made peace with the fact that Abdul Carter is going to be gone, Travis Hunter is going to be gone. And then we get to New England at number 4, and as you said, I mean, that appears to be a Will Campbell, Armand Mimbo situation there, does it not?
Yeah, and that's kind of my thought. You know, if for some reason, you know, it's interesting for the Patriots because if for some reason Hunter was still on the board, he actually would make a little bit more sense for them as a receiver because it's like they've already got Christian Gonzalez and they signed the corner from Tampa and Detroit. Why is his name is slipping? Carlton Davis.
Yeah, Carlton Davis. Yeah.
Well, they've got like 2 really solid corners. So like playing Hunter at corner for New England really wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. He would actually make more sense at receiver, which I think he makes more sense at receiver for the Browns too. Obviously for the Jaguars, I think he would make more sense at corner, and then you play him maybe opposite of Brian Thomas for like 15 plays a game. But that's kind of my understanding. But it sounds like he wants to play both ways. He's like dead set on being one of the few guys, maybe the only guy who's ever done it, right?
Yeah, I know Deion Sanders. You got guys like Charles Woodson, Champ Bailey. They all did it a little bit in college. And Deion and Champ, I don't think ever did it in the NFL. Woodson did it sporadically in the NFL. I'd be stunned. I would absolutely stunned if Travis Hunter could do both at a high level. But look, Jacksonville at number 5. I mean, Kyle, mock drafts for the last 3 months have basically locked in Mason Graham to the Jaguars, the big defensive lineman out of Michigan. Do you see that happening if Graham is on the board at number 5?
You know what? That is so hard to say because we don't have any, you know, draft history for James Gladstone or Liam Cohen. I mean, obviously we do from when Gladstone was with the Rams and Cohen was with the Bucs, obviously what they did. But this is obviously, you know, I know sometimes they say it's a whole lot different when you're actually in the seat. You know, I do think the one nice thing for Jacksonville is that, you know, I've said this before. I feel like you've got a good infrastructure in place. I still believe in Trevor Lawrence. Maybe, you know, we should temper our expectations. Like maybe he's not going to be the savior that we want him to be, but I still think he can be a very good quarterback. And we know that position's hard to find. So, you know, I think you guys could go a variety of ways. I was even listening to, sometimes I listen to The Athletic and, you know, listen to Dane Brugler. I think he's one of the best out there. And, you know, some people have mentioned Ashton Genty to the Jaguars at 5. And I think that is probably a little too rich, but I think you can go a variety of ways. I'm not anti Mason Graham at all. He feels like an immediate kind of plug and play starter that, you know, fills a big need for you. You know, I think what people were saying was, you know, he doesn't necessarily fit the same kind of bill as like a top 5 prospect would, but I think that's just a symptom of this draft class as a whole. It's a very good draft class. I don't think it's made. The top 10 is probably not as star-studded, especially last year. Last year was just unbelievable in terms of the stars potential that we had. We don't really have that in this year's draft class, but that's okay. I think there's still plenty of good starters available. So, Jacksonville could kind of go a variety of ways, or maybe Shedeur falls a little bit, and maybe they get an offer to move back. I mean, who knows?
I would love for New Orleans to come up, or somebody at number 5, and for the Jaguars to trade back. My thing with Mason Graham, I've asked people for a player comp on him, and I get Christian Wilkins a bunch. I even got one Jeffrey Simmons, which I thought was interesting. I mean, look, you could do a lot worse than Christian Wilkins. If Mason Graham is Christian Wilkins, I would take that. Do you like that player comp?
Yeah, my comp actually for him was Braden Fisk, Florida State, and with the Rams. I know he ended up going in the second round, and that probably doesn't excite Jaguars fans to think, oh, we're taking a guy at number 5 who went in the second round. Braden Fisk was a heck of a player. One kind of thing about the Rams is if you kind of look how they've drafted the last couple of years, they don't tend to really draft projects. They kind of draft guys that are really ready to play right away. We kind of saw that with Jared Verse and Fisk last year, and it kind of both those picks really kind of supercharged their defense. So, but that's also the argument maybe against Jacksonville taking a running back early. Liam Cohen in Tampa last year, and he, was with Bucky Irving, who, he went at the end of the 3rd round, early 4th round, I think somewhere in there. And it's like, man, Bucky Irving was awesome last year. He was a guy that you got in the 4th round. Are you really going to spend a 1st or a 2nd round pick on a running back?
Final moments, NFL draft analyst Kyle Lindamman with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Kyle, Jalen Walker's also a name that was been thrown around here in Jacksonville. Look, obviously they got Trayvon Walker and Joshua Hines-Allen. You would have to do something there, maybe move Trayvon inside on pass rush situations. But Jalen Walker, you talk about the intangibles, and James Gladstone's mentioned the word intangibles ad nauseum since he's arrived here in the last couple of months. And you talk to people in Athens, Jalen Walker has all the intangibles you're looking for an NFL linebacker.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he can really line up in a variety of ways. I think versatile is probably the best way to describe him. And I think, too, we're seeing defenses kind of disguise their looks, right? Like we look and see what Brian Flores is doing in Minnesota. And it's like, sometimes they're going with like, a double mug look where both linebackers are lined up, almost kind of right over the center, like they're blitzing, and then they both drop back into coverage. I think we're kind of seeing a little bit more advanced concepts from defenses now, maybe than we were 5-10 years ago. And Jalen Walker's certainly that. He can be an off-ball linebacker. He can rush the passer. He can line up in a variety of ways. I think it's important to, look at the context of, Georgia linebackers, defensive linemen. A lot of them in college, even Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker, so many of these guys did not necessarily pop on the stat sheet in college. And I think that's also because the scheme that Kirby Smart runs, and also the fact that, Georgia's so deep, right? They're, premier program. They've got 8-10 defensive linemen that they've got the luxury of kind of rotating these guys all game to keep them fresh. So Georgia players aren't necessarily going to pop on the stat sheet maybe like other ones would, but I think if we look at defensive players that Georgia has produced the last 5 years, that's a pretty good bet to make.
No, it is. I mean, obviously, you mentioned the guys that Philadelphia had. That's kind of the blueprint right now for drafting Georgia defensive players. Kyle, as we say goodbye, you look at this draft, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, and I've heard about it a lot in the process. The first, 10 picks maybe are good football players. And when you get to 15 or 20, at least from what I've been told, there might not be as big a difference this year between player 20 and player 60 as maybe there are in years past. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a reason for that. I think that we're kind of seeing the talent drop off maybe in the later rounds of the draft. I think the NIL has a lot to do with that because, think about it. If you're a college athlete and, you're projected to be a 5th round pick in the NFL, but you can stay in college and maybe boost your draft stock, and maybe you get an NIL offer where you might actually make more in college than you might on a rookie contract. So I think that has kind of, maybe made the talent in the later rounds kind of drop off a little bit because I think more guys are kind of staying in school now, which is completely understandable. I know the number of underclassmen in the draft is up this year compared to last year, but if you look at the numbers, it's gone down considerably in the last 8 years. So, yeah, I think for teams, it's going to come down to scheme fit or need, but it's definitely a great draft maybe to trade up into the top 3 rounds. But if you're in round 1, round 2, maybe trade back.
Trent Baalke didn't do a lot right here in Jacksonville, but that Brian Thomas Jr. trade last year, he got a 3rd and a 4th from Minnesota for this year's draft. So the Jaguars do have 6 picks in the top, basically 125. They could draft some good football players. I mean, those 6 guys, Kyle, and those top 120-plus picks, you need to draft guys that are going to contribute when you're drafting that high, correct?
Oh, for sure. And I think I'm intrigued to see what you guys end up doing at running back. Obviously, we know this is probably going to be Etienne's last year. I do like Tank Bigsby, and it was, he had a really bad rookie year, and it was nice to see him contributing this year. Is he the kind of running back that's going to get 20 touches a game? Probably not, but he's kind of a nice guy to have as like a number 2 to kind of, take some carries away. So I would be curious to see what the Jaguars would do in the draft, but I get the sense after taking Etienne in round 1 that most Jaguars fans do not want to invest that high in a running back, and I can understand why.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Genty, a lot of talk about Jalen Walker, Tyler Warren even, but certainly the most talk is probably still revolved around Mason Graham. Kyle Lindamman, NFL draft analyst. Kyle, I know you're busy. Thank you as always for the time. Let's reconnect after the draft, and we'll see how the Jaguars fared. Appreciate you, my friend.
Yep, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
There's a certain romance to radio play-by-play.
We need you to be all strong and hot.
Experience the most play-by-play sports on 1010XL.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to CarlsonDentalGroup.com. That's CarlsonDentalGroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Jacksonville's summer heat is coming in fast. Is your AC ready to handle it? Or will it quit on you on the hottest day of the year, leaving you sweating and stuck with a huge repair bill? Duck Air Conditioning is here to save the day with a free AC system inspection. Our expert techs will make recommendations to ensure your AC system is running in tip-top shape before the heat arrives. Call now, 904-862-6769. Duck Air Conditioning, duckac.com. Any required repairs are not included in the inspection.
Okay, everyone, what did you think of the chocolate bar?
It's too chewy.
Feels kind of chalky.
Too much nougat.
I need to go brush my teeth.
Business is booming for Steph's small marketing research firm.
After all these focus groups, there's only one conclusion. I need more researchers.
And she's way too busy researching.
Does this have peanuts?
To waste time researching resumes.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Put our matching platform to work so you can spend less time searching and more time connecting with talented candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
For over 5 decades, a true American band. This is America. Encore Tour 2025, an unforgettable evening with America. April 23rd, Florida Theater. On sale now at floridatheater.com. America, live in concert. Produced by Outback Presents.
Fish know where to hide. Captain Kevin knows how to find them.
That's a big one.
Listen for the Ring Power Fishing Forecast Show, brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss and Royal Pest Services.
Thursday nights at 6.
On 1010XL AM.
Okay, for this Cannons of Jacksonville commercial, we need an idea to really come out with a bang.
Like having a guy shot out of a cannon.
Nah, too messy. In fact, Cannons is known for all your towing needs.
So like my car won't start.
No. Towing products. Cannons does custom welding fabrication and installation of trailer hitches, goosenecks, tow bars, truck racks.
So you might say Cannons is my best shot at finding that inventory in stock?
Boom. You said it.
Visit cannonsofjacks.com.
Frank Frangie here for Stanley Pools. If you're dreaming of putting in a pool this year, choosing the right company is the most important decision you'll make. I've trusted Stanley Pools to build my pool, renovate my pool, and maintain my pool. Stanley Pools has been the best in the business since 1988, and they're still family-owned. Call them today at 904-269-7277 or find them online at stanleypoolsfl.com. That's Stanley Pools, a family tradition of fine swimming pools.
Your tax refund is here. Why not invest in your home? Superior Fence and Rail helps you build value with beautiful, durable fences that boost your home security, privacy, and curb appeal. With expert installation and financing options, turning your yard into an outdoor oasis is easier than ever. Reinvest in your home today with Superior Fence and Rail.
When you're on the fence, about the fence, SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
This is your Mad Dad's Update with Chapter President Donald Ford. In our effort to curb crime, drugs, and violence during the summer months, we are offering Friday Night Lights. It has already started and will be going until school starts back. It is every Friday night from 6:30 to 9:30 at the Blacktop, 5732 Normandy Boulevard, and behind the Potter's House Christian Academy. We manage 3 basketball courts. You are not running on the cement. We have covering on each court. The Lakers, the Magic, and the Heat. Ages 15 to 40 years old. This will give them something to do other than selling drugs and getting into trouble. We have monitors there giving leadership. We have to wake up, stand up, and speak up. Hit me on Facebook and tell me what you think. Or MattDadJacksonville.com.
Hey everybody, Jennifer Marion with Randy Marion Cadillac in Jacksonville here to say hello, and we'd sure like to have your business.
You know what? They're going to love the king of price.
My dad believes in making great deals and having a great selection in stock.
Cadillac XT4s, XT5s, and XT6s, and Escalades.
The all-electric Cadillac Lyriq.
CT4s and CT5s.
Cadillac luxury and selection is just waiting for you.
At Randy Marion Cadillac, Southside Boulevard, Jacksonville.
And don't forget, tell them Jennifer sent ya.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and there's so many cool products that are on the line at Cycles of Jacksonville. The showroom is Atlantic and Regency, and we're talking, Greg, you've got from any level of price point, the experienced rider to the inexperienced on-road, off-road.
We've got it. We've got ATVs, we've got motorcycles, we've got scooters, we even have the new Honda boats. We've got something for everyone.
Don't forget about the boat line from Honda. It's all right there, waiting for you. Atlantic and Regency or Cycles of Jacksonville's Facebook page.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Yes, it is. Till 10 o'clock every night. Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM. The NBA play-in tournament underway. Good one in the Western Conference tonight between Golden State and Memphis. The winner of that game advances to play Houston in round number 1. Orlando and Atlanta going at it right now. This is so apropos of the Magic. They were up 21 in the first half, could do no wrong. They can't score. They're horrible at shooting the ball. They have 9 points in the third quarter. Their 21-point lead has evaporated. They're only up 4. Trae Young is basically doing whatever he wants. And this has been the story of the Orlando Magic season. Injuries have been a big part of it, but they cannot shoot. And the management down there did absolutely nothing to address this at the trade deadline. Orlando was one of only 4 teams that did not make a trade at the trade deadline. And Mr. Weltman, sir, the GM, that's on you, brother, because the team sucked at shooting last year. You go add Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Okay, great. He's having a down year. Obviously, you couldn't shoot at the halfway point of the year. You knew that at the trade deadline. You made the choice not to do anything, and now you are going to reap what you sow because you are going to be on the hot seat if they lose these couple of games. Denmark, you got to make baskets to win in the NBA, man, the last time I checked. And Orlando does this time and time and time again. That's why I told RJ on Sunday, Orlando needs help in the backcourt. They need shooting. They got 2 first-round picks. Sign me up for Walter Clayton Jr. to Orlando right now. I would absolutely take him. I think if the draft were today, Orlando's picking 16th and 24th, I believe. If Walter Clayton Jr. is there at one of those selections, I don't even think twice about it. He fits a need. He gives them what they need. Makes all the sense in the world. But knowing Weltman, he'll go after defense and big physical bodies that can't shoot, and they try to win games 87-85 in today's NBA. That just no longer works. So as I'm getting mad watching Orlando's season completely fall down the drain like it has for the last couple of months, let's shift gears to a little college football talk. My buddy Brent Beard will join me. You see him on First Coast News. You get him weekly here on Hacker After Dark. Brent will join me coming up in about 10 minutes or so. I want to talk about Nico and the fallout from him leaving Knoxville. Apparently there's not a lot of suitors, at least right now. He's going to officially enter the portal tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Remember, because it's the spring portal, he cannot transfer inside of the conference, so he can't go anywhere in the SEC and play in 2025. But Denmark, you and I didn't talk a ton about the Gators spring game on Saturday. I mean, it's a spring game. It is what it is. But clearly, the star of the show was Dallas Wilson, right? His spring game debut, 10 for $190, a couple of touchdowns. I thought Jacoby Jackson, the running back, also did some really nice things. You know, we're so caught up in Jaden Baugh and Trey Wilson and, you know, the guys that did things last year. Well, there's a lot of guys chomping at the bit that are the newcomers or the guys that maybe weren't given as much of an opportunity. And Jackson and Wilson appear to be 2 of those guys.
Yeah, it's hard not to get excited to looking at, you know, the offense specifically. You got 2 good running backs. DJ Lagway is going to be 100% going in OTAs, which was the biggest storyline coming out of spring game. And you look like you have depth at the receiver. You know, hopefully everybody can stay healthy. If this offensive line can play like they did in the month of November, it's hard not to get excited. I usually don't really care about spring games, and you know, you usually look good in front of your own people. But it looks really, really good. The arrow is pointed up for the Florida Gators on offense specifically.
Well, I like those 3 young wide receivers, Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, Nashawn Montgomery. I like that 2-headed backfield, Jaden Baugh and Jackson. The fact that 80% of the starting offensive line is back. Obviously, it's going to come down to DJ Lagway's health. We all know that. But on the surface, it appears the offense is going to be pretty good. And quickly, talking to Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South, you know, I was talking last night with him about coaches on the hot seat entering the year. We talked about Billy Napier. We talked about Sam Pittman. He said he thinks Hugh Freeze has the hottest seat not only in the conference, but the hottest seat in America entering 2025 out there on the plains at Auburn. It'll be interesting to see what happens out there with Hugh Freeze. But clearly there are some SEC coaches that need to win this year. There's no doubt about that. Billy Napier is certainly one of them. I would say Sam Pittman is certainly one of them. And I agree that Hugh Freeze is probably certainly one of those coaches. So we'll do a deep dive into Gator spring ball and talk about Nico transferring, what that means for the sport, and everything in between. My buddy Brent Beard, you see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. It's a Tuesday night in Jacksonville, Florida. We're glad you're with us. Hacker After Dark till 10 o'clock right here on 1010XL and on 92.5 FM.
High school.
Check.
College.
Check.
Pro.
Check.
We've got you covered.
This is big time boss season.
1010XL. Jacksonville Sports Radio.
Bueller.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Hey man, what's that noise?
Do you hear it too? You can hear it, right?
Yeah, it's your air conditioner. It's like a grinding or a rattling.
And it's getting on your nerves, right? Like it's eating at your brain and you can't think straight? But it just keeps grinding and squeaking and taunting and nagging. You're not good enough. You're a failure. Why can't you be more like your sister, the lawyer?
Yeah, I don't hear that last part so much.
Yeah, but it's not cool, right, Jason?
It could definitely be cooler. At Bueller Air and Plumbing, We can totally repair whatever that noise is and get your AC working smoothly and silently. We fix these things all the time.
So I won't be a failure?
Life should be enjoyed. If some irritating, broken air conditioner is making you crazy, you could miss it.
Stay cooler with Bueller.
Visit BuellerAir.com.
Catch Gators baseball all season long on 1010XL. Pitched by Farah and Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars. And Renewal by Anderson, the official window and door replacement partner of the Florida Gators.
So, you finally have some time to yourself. Even if it is just the car ride home, it's you time. And look at you. Do not disturb set before you even got in the car? Impressive. You've earned this moment to just chill and drive. This break is brought to you by Target Zero and the Florida Department of Transportation.
I'm Max Fink, and I'm your Gator Updater. Listen for the Gator Report several times a week on 1010XL.
Freshened up by San Jose Collision on the home of the Florida Gators, 1010XL. Go Gators! Here's your 1010XL community calendar of local events and nonprofit groups helping people here at home.
You can help Micah's Place support domestic violence victims by playing in the Par for a Purpose golf tournament June 20th at the stunning Golf Club of Amelia Island. Register at micahsplace.org/golf.
City Rescue Mission provides life-changing support for the homeless. Find ways to get involved at crmjax.org.
If you could benefit from a grief and loss support group, call Haven Hospice at 279-1677.
You have healing power. Even writing a letter or volunteering can help heal a veteran. Find out more at healvets.org.
The Hometown for Heroes Home Buyers Program helps you get your down payment and closing costs paid. Call to learn more. 574-7180.
You can find out how to share your community event at 1010XL.com.
Denny Thompson here. If you haven't heard, Tyson Sound and Security has a house built right inside their showroom, showcasing complete home automation and security systems. You have to see it to believe it. This setup can recognize intruders who approach your door and alerts them to leave if there's a break-in. Keep your family safe with the most state-of-the-art technology. Tyson Sound and Security, your security, home theater, and home automation experts. New showroom at 3555 U.S. Highway 17 in Fleming Island.
I'm Stacy, and I want to tell you about my fogged up window fiasco at my house. I called up Mac at Baker Glass. He told me all I needed was a glass replacement. The process was so easy. All within a few days, they came out, measured, called me with an estimate, cut my glass, and came out to install the new ones. Now my view outside is fog-free thanks to Mac and his crew at Baker Glass. And my neighbors think I got some fancy new windows.
I'm back with Baker Glass. No one treats you better. If you suffer from constant burning, tingling, or numbness in your hands or feet, it could be a serious condition called neuropathy. I'm Dr. Nathan Riddle, DC with Riddle Wellness in Ponte Vedra. Neuropathy is treatable, and we have seen great results by using state-of-the-art, non-invasive therapies to target damaged nerves, reduce symptoms, and improve nerve function. Call 904-395-5598 to schedule your free consultation today and learn how you can live pain-free. Call 904-395-5598.
When you need a mechanic you can trust, call Sam, Harry, or Joe at AA Automotive on Richard Street. From oil changes to complex engine repairs, AA Automotive promises expert service and honest pricing from a local family biz. AA Automotive on Richard Street.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville. Now, the Cool Down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing, keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. Boy, the Florida Gators wrapped up spring ball on Saturday. Dallas Wilson, what a showing he had in a Gator uniform in his debut. We'll talk about that, the DJ Lagway situation, and obviously the biggest story in college football resides in Knoxville with Nico out and the fallout from the Tennessee decision to not pay their starting quarterback. With that, my buddy Brent Beard, you see him locally on First Coast News, and you get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Mr. Beard, how are you, sir?
Well, it is a unique time of year. We have the Gators as national champion in basketball, and we have spring games left. Believe it or not, we are basically a month and a week away from the first preseason magazines and how difficult that would be. Two things to keep in mind before we get going here. One, there are spring games left. Arkansas has this game Saturday. Mississippi State does too. South Carolina has this game Friday night. So notice the difference with that. Texas A&M has this game Saturday at 3. And the reason that is important is because it actually is on television on the SEC network. So that's nice to see. And the portal begins Wednesday of this week and goes for a little over a week. And something to remember for SEC fans, you cannot transfer in the spring portal from one SEC school to another.
And that was interesting when we brought up the Nico Iamaleava story because he could not transfer to another SEC program. And let's dive into the Nico story, Brent. All right, so Friday I'm filling in for Carline. I'm on with Frangie on the Frangie Show, and we had Jimmy Himes on. And at that point on Friday afternoon, the Nico stuff had kind of just broke. He missed practice that morning, but I really didn't think much of it until Jimmy comes on and basically says, I think Nico's done. I think he's going to enter the portal. And that was kind of a whoa. And then Saturday morning, lo and behold, that absolutely came to fruition. For a backstory here, Nico reportedly was getting paid anywhere from $2.2 to $2.5 million in NIL. That was the agreement that he reached with the university, or his people reached with the University of Tennessee. And then I guess Nico, in professional athletic terms, wanted to renegotiate the contract and wanted upwards of $4 million a year, or better yet, his father wanted to renegotiate the contract, as being reported. And Tennessee said, I don't think so. And they had an impasse, and now Nico's leaving Knoxville. Brent, what do you make of this?
Well, it's a story that was coming sooner or later, and unfortunately it comes for Nico. There's a lot to learn here for everyone. I got amused on Twitter yesterday of all these tweets that talked about how this wasn't Nico's fault. We need to blame this on the NCAA. Well, it was Nico's fault. It was Nico's representation, and it was an incredibly stupid decision, primarily because Nico is a middle-of-the-pack at best quarterback, and when you don't even really earn your $2 million, why in the world would you need $4? So Nico's learning a lot. He's at a crossroads in his life. There aren't a lot of schools looking at him. I've heard UCLA is a possibility. Everyone thought yesterday it was going to be North Carolina. That's not the case. I've heard Tulane a little bit. So, it may be a while before he is able to get another school. But again, and the thing that really is that is bothersome the most is they were really thinking about pulling this stunt before the Ohio State playoff game. And is there any wonder why Tennessee played so poorly in that game? Now, they had a lot of injuries. And frankly, last year, Tennessee got to the playoffs because of Dylan Sampson and their front seven on defense, with the Pierce kid in particular. It wasn't that much because of Nico. So we probably needed this to happen at some point for people to see the reality and the utopia, the grandiosity of all this. So I think we've learned a lot over the last few days because of it. I mean, I wish him well. Hopefully he can improve as a quarterback and land somewhere. But Nico's greatest growth point right now would be to, Dad, I love you, but I'm going to make some other decisions, and I'm going to get an agent who I can really work with.
You see Brent Beard on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. All right, there's a lot to unpack here. First and foremost, I don't say I feel bad for Nico, but I sympathize with him because I think he got some terrible advice from people very close to him, including his father. That's at least the stories that are coming out, is this is kind of a greedy dad. Now, for what the market is, you could argue that a quarterback that, whether it was his result of them being there or not, he was one of the 12 quarterbacks in the college football playoff last year. You know, Carson Beck's getting $4 million to go to Miami, reportedly. Nico was getting $2.2 at Tennessee. It's the day and age we live in. I can maybe understand a little bit of the family's frustration. But, Brent, I was always one of the guys that said, you know what? Players probably do deserve some compensation. I always remember the classic story about Chris Webber in Ann Arbor walking past the Michigan bookstore, seeing the number 4 jersey that's being sold for $150 a piece. That's his jersey, and Chris said he had like $20 in his pocket because he didn't receive any of that money. That's wrong. That's ridiculous, and I agree with that. But in doing NIL and in doing the portal, I mean, look, now you're talking about guys making $3, $4, $5 million a year, guys becoming free agents, you know, every offseason. At some point, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, there needs to be a little bit of regulation put on some of this stuff, does there not?
Yeah, there's no question about that. Where universities at some point are going to have to realize that they're going to have to take a different approach to this, and where we're going, and we need to get there sooner than later, is some kind of contract situation, collective bargaining. If that comes up, there just needs to be some limitations and some structure to situations like this. I don't mean it has to be totally NFL, but if we're going to go the NIL route and the genie's out of the bottle, and we're doing what we're doing now, and it really doesn't need to be Congress that comes up with this. They may go with the congressional route just to find out, to put in some safeguards to keep from being sued all the time. But yes, Hack, there's no question about that. The sooner we can get some structure around this, the better we're going to be.
Quickly, because I want to get to Florida as we wrap up, but where does this leave Tennessee? I mean, obviously they had planned everything with Nico in mind, and I mean, it's still only April. We got 4 months till the season, but Tennessee's got a problem, right, at quarterback?
Yep, they do. I mean, look, they've got some young guys that they will be looking at, and frankly, and the good thing is they've got Josh Heupel, who's a really good developer of quarterbacks, frankly. So I think they can do something with the guys that they've got. At this point, Faison Brandon has been committed. Merklinger is one of the guys that they are looking at. Unfortunately, these are names that people really don't know because these guys haven't seen a whole lot of time. There's also George McIntyre that's involved with this too. But your point, it really leaves them in a lurch, doesn't it, Hack? I mean, the season for the spring is over, and I mean, imagine being this coaching staff, being with the limitations that they've got to be on the field with these guys, and what do they do next?
You see Brent Beard on First Coast News. You get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. And remember, Nico is a West Coast kid, so likely you mentioned UCLA somewhere out there, but good luck to the college that brings him in to have to deal with his representatives and their greed, what it appears. All right, so let's get to Florida as we wrap up. And I guess first and foremost, DJ Lagway obviously didn't do much in the game on Saturday, Brent, the spring game, but maybe we finally have a little bit of clarity as it was announced after the game that the Gators expect Lagway to start throwing again in a couple of weeks.
And they needed to deal with that. They needed to get that out there and to let people know, as Billy Napier said, by the time they get to OTAs in June, he should be 100%, and hopefully that will be the case. But Hack, man alive, if he is healthy, do they have some weapons? Dallas Wilson was really impressive. The Oregon transfer, 19 yards a catch. That Vernell Brown, Nashawn Montgomery. You throw names out there. They were able to run the ball, and they ran the ball with some authority. Now, again, this doesn't mean the offense is great and the defense is terrible in a spring game, but I think if you come away with two things would be the report for DJ is better, and this offense for the Gators could really be good as the year goes along.
You could legit argue Florida had the best wide receiver recruiting class in the country because on certain websites, Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown were 5 stars. Nashawn Montgomery was a 4-star. And then all three guys shined a little bit, but certainly Dallas Wilson was the star. And I think the one thing I left Brent with as well, all the talk about Jaden Baugh, and I think he's going to be a good player, running back.
Really?
Let's not forget Mr. Jackson in the backfield as well. Now that Montrell Johnson's gone, they're still going to have a two-headed monster at running back.
Yeah, they really will. And Jackson got nearly 200 yards basically himself. And look, we know the limitations for spring games, if we want to call it a spring game, frankly. But very impressive. And again, it's going to be and they're going to have a pretty good offensive line coming back as far as experience. Hank, could we actually see this offense carrying the defense for a few games as the season begins?
Maybe, perhaps. And look, as far as Florida goes, last year this time, Brent, the only expectation there was really Billy Napier losing his job at some point. There was no expectation about wins or whatever.
Right.
Now, the more people I talk to, at least on a regional basis, that cover the conference, the more conversation I hear about Florida maybe being one of those dark horse college football playoff candidates. Now, I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but clearly there are some expectations on this team.
Well, and particularly if Lagway, if reports keep coming in June and July that he looks sharp and he's not having any pain throwing, that would really get people excited. So, and schools are always, and magazine writers and the media are always looking for mystery teams and wild card teams, and Florida could be a real fit for that, yes.
Wrapping things up with Brent Beard. Brent, as we say goodbye, leave us with any news and nuggets you want to about any of the other spring games that went on around the conference this past weekend.
Yeah, I'll bust through real quick. Brother Bill Oliver, former defense coordinator at Alabama, died on Monday at 85 years old, best known for coordinating the defense that beat Miami in the national championship game for the 92 season. He also had a real relationship with Steve Spurrier, and I think helped him out on some consulting from time to time. Ryan Grubb, the Alabama offensive coordinator, said if they had to play today, that Ty Simpson would be the starting quarterback. Deuce Knight at Auburn had a good spring game in front of about 20,000 folks. Their wide receivers at Auburn should be good. The Georgia wide receivers are going to be a lot better than we thought they were. Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, Colby Young, for instance. with a few of those guys too. So just a few things that are going on in the league, and as we mentioned earlier, we've got some spring games left over this weekend, so that will be, I think, a lot of fun to see where that is. Florida State continues spring practice this week. This is their last week of spring practice. Miami had their spring game over the weekend. And keep this in mind, Carson Beck actually started throwing this week. Probably just light, a little throw and catch, but that's a lot better than what's been going on before now.
Well, that's big for Miami. Brent, we got 60 seconds. You were talking about Auburn. I had Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South, on last night. He thinks Hugh Freeze has the hottest seat, not only in the conference, but the hottest seat in America. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, yes, and Hugh Freeze has actually admitted that himself. He's quite troubled if they don't win more than 8 games this year. So yeah, I would agree with that. But there's no way in the world that Auburn's going to put up with mediocrity in these situations. And another 6-6, or maybe even a 7-5 might be it. The good news for Freeze is he said last week he has prostate cancer, that he is going to have some surgery, but the doctors say he could either have it now or he could wait until the season is over in December or January, and he still would be okay. So, but no, that is a legitimate point, that there is a real certain amount of pressure on Freeze to have a better team this year.
Mr. Brent Beard, you see him on First Coast News, and you get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. Brent, we always appreciate you, man. We'll do it again next week.
Good. Can't wait, bud. Take care.
And thank you to my buddy Brent Beard. You see him locally on First Coast News. You also get him weekly right here on Hacker After Dark. The Nico saga in Knoxville, absolutely wild. He reportedly will enter the portal tomorrow. What will Tennessee do at quarterback? Where will Nico end up? Again, he's a West Coast kid, so one would expect somewhere out there on the western side of the United States. We'll see. We've heard UCLA, perhaps some other schools that could be interested there. But again, look, renegotiation is one thing, but to have an actual holdout, which is what that situation was turning into, is wild. And some sort of regulation, maybe a 2-year contract, maybe a one-time transfer, salary cap, collective bargaining. I don't know what the answer is, but I know college athletics is the wild, wild west right now. It's a free-for-all. It's nuts. And sooner rather than later, it's going to have to be reeled in a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see if this Nico story in Knoxville is kind of the forefront of bringing some sort of regulation to where we are with the portal, NIL, and everything else going on right now in collegiate athletics. So we certainly spent some time on that. Got the opportunity earlier today down at the Miller Electric Center to listen to GM James Gladstone and head coach Liam Cohen as they had the Jaguars had their annual pre-draft media luncheon. Learned some things. Obviously, they kept a lot of things pretty close to the chest. They're not going to give away everything. But I think, look, all the guys that we've talked about, Mason Graham, Jalen Walker, Ashton Genty, all those guys are probably in play. If it were me, if I'm a betting man right now, I'm still going in the Mason Graham department as far as where I think the Jaguars go at number 5. Would it shock me if they went somewhere else? No, because, what really shocks you anymore in today's National Football League? But I would say Mason Graham, then potentially Jalen Walker, then probably Ashton Genty would be my 1, 2, 3 right now. If you ask me what the Jaguars are going to do, that is, of course, assuming Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are not on the board, which nobody thinks they will be by the time the Jaguars select at number 5. So we certainly spent some time on that as well, the NBA postseason. is underway. In fact, the Magic and the Hawks are playing right now in one of the play-in games. That'll continue later on tonight, tomorrow, on Friday as well. And then on Saturday, the NBA playoffs begin with 4 games on Saturday and 4 games on Sunday. Well, that will just about do it, man. It has been a very busy Tuesday night edition of Hacker